Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Wondergoal, the soccer betting podcast from the Action Network, presented to you by Bet365. My name is Michael Leboff. Joining me for this, our last actionable episode of the 2022-2023 soccer season, will be Anthony DeBundo and BJ Cunningham. And before I bring them in, just a reminder, Wondergoal is proudly presented by Bet365, the world's favorite sportsbook brand. Sign up with promo code ACTION to get Bet365's exclusive sign-up offer. Bet $1 on any game and get $200 in bonus bets. Must be 21 or older. The offer is available in Colorado, New Jersey, Ohio, and Virginia in the United States. If you have a gambling problem, please call or text 1-800-GAMBLER. Okay, on to the showpiece of the European soccer season. Manchester City and Inter Milan. So Anthony, me and BJ tried to tell Anthony all season, you might want to bet this Inter team.
Yeah.
The draw is going to break for them. Then you can work on figuring out a hedge as you get to the final. And did he listen to us? I don't know. But right now, to lift the trophy, City's minus 450, Inter plus 333 at Bet365. The three-way line, City minus 223, Inter plus 550. The draw is plus 375. This match is taking place 3 p.m. Eastern time, and it is taking place in Istanbul, in Turkey. Not all that exciting of a betting proposition here, with the way that the match kind of sets up. I do think there's probably a ton of people out there with City to win futures, and congratulations if you are one of those folks. There's certainly a lot less people out there who had RB Leipzig tickets. Those they might be dead. But BJ, what are your thoughts here, City and Inter?
Yeah, I mean, I've been thinking about this quite a bit, and then I've been going back and forth on it. Not really, it's going to be the same conversation we had about the FA Cup final where City is overvalued. Like, that's just how it is now. We were texting on the side during the FA Cup final saying how Anthony just kept calling City frauds the entire season, that they won, 23 straight matches. He said they never even played their best game. But I mean, listen, there's a lot of pressure on City here. They're going for the treble. Like, the pressure is off Inter. So my projection on this match is I have City for the 90 minutes at minus 152 and to lift the trophy at minus 227. So there is value on Inter. If you can find, I think the best price I found was plus 350 on Inter to lift the trophy. That's kind of where I've landed. I'm waiting for Inter plus 1.5 to get to a better price if I ever want to play that. And I think there's some stuff tactically that Inter has shown throughout this Champions League run and in Serie A that they can give City some problems. So they play out of a 3-5-2, so they can very easily, sink 5 guys into the back line, not allow City to create overloads. And when City likes to do their 3-2-5 buildup, they are a very capable pressing team. Like, they were 4th in Serie A in passes per defensive action. They were top 5 in opponent buildup completion percentage allowed. But they're facing the best buildup team in the world. And the other thing with Inter, though, is it's not like they haven't seen like elite buildup teams. They were in a group with Bayern and Barcelona during the group stage. I know it's a long, long time ago. The only match, if you look on XG, that they got completely blown out was the very first match against Bayern Munich. Every other match was fairly close on XG, even if the final scoring line didn't say that. So Inter, a team that's very, very capable, building out of the back and playing in transition, is a team that can give City some problems. So I've been kind of monitoring what Inter is to score. It's now kind of dropped below minus 150, which I think is quite interesting. Like, I have them 0.8 goals here to score projected. So if that line drifts down to minus 140, minus 135, I'll have to hammer on that. There's also some interesting props that we can talk about in a little while, but kind of where I've landed is kind of feels similarly to how I felt about the FA Cup, which City did lose on XG. I know Manchester United had a penalty in there, but it wasn't a rousing performance from City. So I do like Inter. If you can get plus 1.5 at minus 120 or better, I would take that. I'm probably going to sprinkle half a unit on Inter to lift the trophy. But this is the game we're going to have to play now with Manchester City, because they are overvalued, and they're going to be overvalued as we continue on to the next season as well.
Yeah, they're not just overvalued as a team, but you look in like the player prop market, it's
I mean,
absurd.
it's crazy.
Holland is minus 190 to score anytime.
Oh my gosh.
He's under 10 to 1 to score a hat trick.
Oh my gosh.
It's bizarre. Yeah, I'm with you. I think like it's gonna end up being Inter or nothing here. I maybe can build a little bit of like a lotto ticket, same game parlay. If you want, but it's I mean, Anthony called them frauds all season, but it's been pretty incredible to watch City just dominate for since middle of January because of the relegation battle that like I was focused so much on with Everton. Like I don't know if I fully grasped just how good this team was, and like you said, like they scored in the first 15 seconds in the FA Cup, and then United kind of wrestles control of the game back, but they just because they were chasing it. Like I didn't feel like City was ever under too much pressure there, and yeah, I mean I'm gonna bet against them in all likelihood on Saturday, and it's just gonna go poorly. Anthony.
Yeah, and what I would say one thing really quick. One thing we've also seen with Inter is like throughout this entire Champions League run in the round of 16, they've never really been playing from behind. They've been playing with the lead for a pretty much the entire way to the final here. So it'll be very interesting to see if City does score early, how Inter actually plays that. But sorry, go ahead, Anthony.
This might be the longest I've ever gone without like uttering words on this show.
Well, I mean, after all the things you said about City,
well, I was just getting slapped around there for like 15 minutes. I feel like I got to get my piece in here. You know, look, certainly when I said that City was worse in November and December, that was not aging well. But I also, you know, we did bet like City every week to win the league repeatedly over and over again.
Some of us did.
In March. BJ did not. He was still clinging on to the hope. But I think I agree again. And I think the most interesting takeaway, I agree that City's overvalued. When you look at the match against United, I saw a Kevin De Bruyne that was completely gassed by the hour mark. I saw a City team that really didn't press effectively in the second half. If you look through some of the data, United was able to build up better, not as well as like a certain team, maybe like a better team would, because of De Gea's inabilities to play out from the back. I mean, he had a lot of giveaways that, you know, came from his errant passes. But I think when you look at this matchup and you think, okay, what's the case for Inter to win? City conceded the second highest percentage of XG from set pieces this year in the league. Inter was very good on set pieces in Serie A, and it was one area of strength. They have enough size and the big center backs, and if Lukaku or Dzeko, depending on who starts, like that's potentially an avenue. Inter also had the second most transition goals in the Champions League. That's a pretty big, feather in their cap, because it shows me that they don't have to have the ball necessarily. And, you know, the reason that I bet Inter back in whenever the hell it was, I guess January, when the draw came out and they got Porto in the round of 16, it was like, well, in a year where there are not very many good defenses in Europe, everybody's flawed except probably City at the top and maybe Bayern. Like, who's the next team? We were like, well, Inter's got like a really high floor because they're defensively solid. And I still think that's true. Like, their back three center backs plus Brozovic, Çalhanoğlu, and Barella are like a very capable back six under pressure in the center of the park. So I don't think they're getting overwhelmed in this matchup necessarily. I actually think in terms of playing out from the back, they're probably as good as Real Madrid. Now, they don't have like a Vinny Jr., but they have certainly some of the pieces to make a good, outlet type attack. And I actually think that, with this being more of a neutral field and not going on the road to City over two legs, they won't be necessarily as penned in as Real was in that second leg when City beat the hell out of them. So I think there are some angles of of success from a projection standpoint. I also show value. I actually downgraded City after the FA Cup win, which most people would probably laugh at, but like BJ said, they were out-created. You know, Gundogan scores 2 goals from outside the box. One, I'm still not even sure he was convinced he was shooting. The second one, he kind of shanked it into the corner, and like De Gea should save that. But I think they have kind of a natural answer for Gundogan as the third man runner too. So it will be an interesting final. Nevertheless, I do have a few props that we can, I guess, transition into a little bit here because I'm going to bet Inter. I'm not going to bet Inter, but if I hadn't had the ticket, I would bet Inter plus 1.25. I'm fine with it. I do think City is a touch overvalued here, and I think they're out of gas. I think we haven't quite seen it because they haven't had to play that many competitive matches lately. But the same thing I said last week about them just not quite having the juice anymore with having to give guys time off training and having to go again after having won the league 2 weeks ago. They did not look as fresh in the second half. And I think that's a real concern with them playing another cup final on Saturday, whereas Inter played a very rotated team against Torino in the Serie A finale on Saturday as well.
So City are tired. Is that first they were not good, then they were frauds, and now they're tired. That's what we're going with here.
Yeah, well, I'm running out of things to say. I'm backed into a corner. It's my last stand. But no, really, I think that Inter is clearly the inferior team, but they have an underdog profile that I actually like more than Man United. And the one thing that's interesting, we don't know the status of Mkhitaryan. I will be interested to see if Inzaghi tries to do a similar thing to what United did and plays the extra midfielder, because it could, like I said, they did a good job of keeping City out of their penalty area. And by playing an extra midfielder, clogging up the middle of the pitch, making City go out wide, City's attack this year, like it's not, because the fullbacks don't get forward, like there's no Cancelo anymore. Like they're not as reliant on those wide overlaps as they've been in years past, and iterations past of City. So I do think that's an interesting approach. But then you also have Dumfries, who like can't really defend out there, which is a little scary from a wing back perspective in the back three. So I'll be interested to see how Inzaghi approaches this. But yeah, City, running on a little bit of fumes here. We'll see, but it will be a fun final. I think it's going to be a better final than people are expecting.
From like a player prop perspective, not gonna go near the Erling Haaland stuff, but I do think that like you can probably find. I think like Manuel Akanji is interesting as like a first goal scorer. I feel like he's just always around it. One thing that just to show how much of a psychopath Pep is, if you remember before last year's final day of the Premier League, where them and Liverpool were head to head, and he played Gundogan, and everyone asked him why, and because he was kind of like in and out of form that whole season. Pep was like, yeah, he's the best player in the world at one very specific thing, and it was the late arriving run in the box. I feel like he's got something going on with Akanji, and that's kind of similar mold. Like I think he just likes the way that he plays, and like when things get a little chaotic in front of the opposition's goal. So if he starts, I'll probably play him at 33-1 to score first. Anybody from Inter? I have someone, but I'll flip it to you. Anything player prop wise for Inter? The prices obviously are gonna be inflated for the Italian side, given that City is a prohibitive favorite. Anything for you, BJ?
Yeah, I like Lautaro Martinez over 2.5 shots at plus 123. It just moved to plus 115 as I said that. Oh, that's crazy. No, yeah, if you want Inter's, highest shot getter, I mean, he's averaging 4.3 shots per 90 in Serie A and 2.5 per 90 in the Champions League this season. And, him and both Lukaku are very physical runners going forward. So even though they're going up against City's, monster 5 center backs, essentially, like they I mean, Martinez is definitely somebody who is unbelievable in transition and is the reason why Anthony said like they've scored the second most goals in transition. I mean, he's got over 20 goals in Serie A and 3 in the Champions League. So for Inter's highest shot getter to be essentially plus money for over 2.5 shots, I think is a tad low. And, if you want, if Mkhitaryan starts, first goal scorer 20-1 is interesting to me. He's in that similar mold as Gundogan with those late arriving runs into the box. But yeah, if player prop wise, I'm probably going to be targeting a lot of Inter, players, just because I do think that a lot of their prices are a tad inflated. I mean, both Lautaro Martinez and Lukaku are both 8-1 as for first goal scorer. And I might just be a sicko and I found Erling Haaland to not score plus 110. I'm just gonna be a sicko and probably take that just for fun.
No goals scored too. It's 12-1. I thought about it as well.
That needs to be maybe a little higher, maybe 15 to play that. But yeah, so Lautaro Martinez, that would be someone I would be targeting in the player prop market.
Anthony, with how tired City is, you're probably breaking the bank to bet all these Inter players.
Well, not necessarily, but there's a couple things I like to get carded. If Bastoni's in the lineup, I'm seeing 3-1. I like Bastoni to pick up a card here. One of the main reasons he's one of their most actively on the ball players. And I like that in this situation because if he loses possession, he gets caught out and he has to take a tactical foul. He's the guy that if City is anchoring their press, they're probably going to anchor it around him. And so he's most likely to have that high turnover, even though he's pretty good in possession. Like he's still the most likely player to have the high turnover that leads to the oh shit foul. So Bastoni completing the most passes of anybody on the team this year in Serie A. So yeah, give me Bastoni 3-1 to be carded. And then I was looking at John Stones shot on target plus 250. I saw that one book. I think Stones was really interesting in the cup final against United. He got forward a lot. His ball progression, his dribbling was a big part of kind of setting the table for Gundogan. But I can't imagine that Inter won't be keyed in on Ilkay. So that could open the door for Stones to not only just from set pieces where he's very tall and know he's dangerous there, just to like get a nothing header and head it toward goal and probably doesn't go in, but like it could be enough to register a shot on goal, or where he takes a pot shot from 20 yards because the ball falls to him because he's that player that's been dribbling and passing forward so much and setting the table for Grealish, De Bruyne, Foden, whoever it is that's in that right wing role, Silva. So I think Stones is interesting to me from like a long shot perspective on who could get shots up in this game, shots off in this one. So those are the two that I had kind of circled. I haven't seen possession props yet. Correct me if I'm wrong, BJ.
I haven't seen anything.
So nothing yet. We're recording this on Tuesday. So as we get closer to game time, will be interesting. I'll tweet if I end up betting a possession prop, but I think that's the best way to go after this matchup.
Yeah, one thing we should also mention, the referee for this match is going to be Szymon Marcinek, who is a Polish referee who has given out 28 yellows in 7 Champions League appearances, and he's mainly a referee in the Polish league. So, you can do the math on what is that, four per match yellows. So, just some information for everybody out there.
All right, that's the Champions League done and dusted.
Mm-hmm.
Not hedging, 34-1.
Got a boy.
Roma, by the way, we have to have a moment for Roma.
Gosh, no.
I mean, there were so many chances there at the end. The one-on-one with Belotti, the Tammy miss on the goal line, the crossbar hit off of Chris Smalling in stoppage time. And then, I knew we were dead in the shootout because we took off all of our good attackers and had like all center backs taking the pens, but disappointing. It was a fun ride. We got all the way to the finish. We will be pouring one out. Fiorentina plays West Ham in the Conference League, Michael. Game of the year. I'm not hedging that ticket either. I think it's an interesting matchup. Fiorentina wants the ball. They will, do a lot of ball progression. West Ham doesn't want it. They want to protect the penalty area. Fiorentina's transition defense is flawed. There are real holes there. So that's like an advantage for West Ham, but it's kind of similar in reverse to what we just saw last week, where Fiorentina will have most of the ball. They'll have the impetus on them, but they'll never really create a ton against that West Ham defense. And then I very much see this as a true coin flip. So I will not be hedging. But again, if we get to pens, then I will be hedging because I can't lose on pens in a coin flip with a 8-1 ticket. So that's where I sit on kind of the Fiorentina West Ham matchup.
How are you going to feel losing all 3 finals and having it
all on penalties too? That's
all
what
on
I'm
penalties?
expecting. Yeah.
Yeah.
I was kind of expecting that. I took a piece off when we got to pens, but it was just never felt like we had a chance against Bayern.
Once it got to pens, it felt over.
All right. That does it for this episode of Wondergoal, presented to you by Bet365. We will probably be back in a couple weeks. Maybe to set up, next, like an early look at next season, some Women's World Cup, and we'll try to get that schedule sorted out because of the time difference between here and Australia, of course, is a little tricky to work around, but we'll definitely have episodes up for that tournament. And then, as always, the off season, it lasts like 3 weeks. So you'll be hearing from us soon. Burnley, by the way, is doing 2 preseasons. They're already doing preseason right now. And then they're taking a break and then doing another preseason. So crazy. Anyways,
I'm going to I think it's Chelsea, Brighton, and like Newcastle Villa, the summer series in Philly.
Oh yeah.
So that'll be fun. Very excited to watch De Zerbi ball.
James Milner, Brighton legend.
Indeed.
So
be on the lookout. I'll have some AFCON qualifiers coming up here in the middle of June, right after the season ends. I believe they're on the 18th, so like the week after the Champions League. Then we get a little bit of a break, and then we're back for the Women's World Cup.
Maybe we should do like an MLS special. I'll find somebody who
knows
MLS betting, and we can have them on and talk about it.
No, I'd rather do Brazilian Serie A than MLS.
And on that note, ta-ta, everybody.